We need rest. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is spongy and bruised.
Hi everyone, I'm Luke Hector and this is the Broken Meeple, a show where I devote my time to ranting and raving about board games, but usually more the ranting part. This is just a catch-all video really, because there was a few little small games that I couldn't really get to reviewing before the cruise and Christmas. There's not a lot to say about them, not even that much for a speed review even. So I kind of figured, you know what, let's just do a catch-all video and get them all out of the way so I can focus on other videos. There are going to be a couple of speed reviews coming though. Firstly for Undergrove, this one from AEG, a bit late to the party. I know this one came out a few months before the end of last year, but still I wanted to give my thoughts on it. I've, started to give it the beans and will give my speed review thoughts on that one. And I also want to do a quick speed review of Alley Cat's new pick up and deliver game Station to Station, which came out around Essen time. I've played this one, given it the beans, and have some thoughts to do, so I'll probably record this one straight after this video, frankly. But this is to basically go over a few small games that I just never really got to. So we've got the Game of Tarot from Yellow Games. This is a new series that they're doing. We've got Kimono Memories from Emperor S4, we've got Coney from Little Rocket Games, and we got Magic Maze Tower from Sit Down Games. So, well, let's see, which one do we start with? Well, we'll start with Kimono Memories first. This is from Emperor S4. And this is in the line of Hanamakoji series. So you had Hanamakoji and then you had Geisha's Road. Hanamakoji is one of my favorite two-player games ever. It's like such an amazing, smooth, elegant game. Geisha's Road is fun, good, but a bit complex. It's harder to get to the table. You need somebody kind of dedicated to play it with you. It's not really a casual flow game. Well, this one is in the same line, mainly because it uses that whole Japanese geisha style artwork, but also because it's got that little mechanism for points where you're kind of doing a tug of war with your opponent with certain scoring markers, and it's a case of, well, who got it further at their end, you win that marker, and you have to try and win so many markers to win the game. But the idea with this one is that you're essentially building a pyramid. So you have the board in the middle, you've got the cards around it, that's kind of a bit like something out of patchwork, shall we say, and these cards are essentially coloured cards with numbers and arrows on either side. Other side. Cool, my mind today. But the idea is that you are building essentially a little pyramid tableau, and as you build this pyramid, you are covering up symbols. You're trying to match the side bits together, and this will allow you to move the markers back and forth as well as score additional points if you're playing the expert mode. Now, this game would be a lot simpler if the rule books were better laid out. There's two rule books here. You've got one that goes over the basic game and the solo mode, and then you've got one that goes over the expert mode. Well, why don't you just have a book for all three? Or why don't you just combine them all into one book? You know, why put the solo with the basic but have the expert and the silent? It's kind of odd. But also I found that these rule books were a little bit hard to kind of gauge how to play this game. And once you actually start playing it, it's not that difficult. But the rulebooks kind of make a bit of a pig's ear of explaining it, and maybe that's a translation issue, I don't know, but yeah, I found myself getting a little bit frustrated with these. It is well produced though. You've got coloured meeples in here, some chits, you've got an easy board, and the artwork is gorgeous, as you would believe. But the free modes. The basic mode should not be done at all, frankly. I mean, if you are brand new to games, then play the basic mode once and then never touch it again. If you've played games, don't touch the basic mode. It is monumentally boring. There's just nothing to it. It teaches the absolute basic mechanics, and that's it. The solo mode is just as boring. There's just not really anything you do in it. You just move a marker 2 or 3 spaces, take some cards, and try to make more symbols that, try to do better than a pre-programmed AI. That's literally it. There's nothing really to that at all. So you're really only playing the expert game where you get to score points based on, claiming cat tokens and pattern scoring tiles and some special scoring cards. That is a better game. But the game overall is fine. I didn't think it was overly, it didn't really blow my mind as much as Hanamakoji did, and even Geisha's Road I thought was really clever, even though it's not really casual. This one, once you get past the slightly shoddy rule books, is fine. It is another tug of war, and you know, you're trying to decide, right, well, hang on, I can only go so many spaces with this marker, which card do I want, which card am I giving the other person? It's very much like Patchwork in that respect, having this sort of circle of cards that you keep going round and round and choosing. But the whole building a little pyramid thing is, it's okay. I mean, there's an element of, ooh, do I cover this because I'm scoring for that? But then if I do, I'm not moving this marker back and forth. You know, that's all decent. But overall, I just kind of found this one a little bit underwhelming. It's not terrible, but having 2 out of 3 modes that don't work, you know, or just fundamentally boring, and only having the expert mode as the way to play the game, and even then, it's fine, but I would sooner rather play Hanamakoji and even Geisha's Road to that extent. It's fine though, I'll give it a 6 out of 10 overall, as long as you just ignore the fact that the solo mode exists, or the basic mode, because they are basically just in there as throwaway modes. You're playing this in expert mode only, and if you play expert mode only, you're talking a 6 out of 10. Above average, it's fine, but honestly, I think you would be better off either playing Geisha's Road if you're with a hardcore gamer partner, or just getting Hanamakoji. The original Hanamakoji is still the best, whether or not you get the little mini expansions with it for more variety. Hanamakoji still tops anything else in this line, and you know, I was kind of hoping that this would be another one that I could sing the praises of. At the moment, it's just, yeah, it's fine, but nothing special.
You cut me deep, Shrek. You cut me real deep just now.
Moving on now to the game of Tarot. This is a new series of games that Yellow Games are doing, which I highly approve of this concept. They're basically taking traditional games from around the world and packaging them in these small, portable, you know, little boxes, but with revised artwork, you know, revised rules, you know, to make it easier to teach them, but also just to make them look good. I highly approve of this. I think this is a really good idea, because on the cruise, you know, in order to keep myself busy during the sea days when the pool wasn't open because of choppy seas, I joined a bridge club. There was 2 people there teaching bridge to beginners and people who knew what they were doing, and I learned how to play the basics of bridge. I had an advantage because I already know how to play trick-taking games, but really, when it comes to bridge, the trick-taking part is easy. It's the bidding phase before you do the trick-taking that has all the vocabulary and all the how you react and what you do with your partner and stuff. And you know, even during the actual trick-taking phase, you've got all these extra bits. I mean, God blimey, it blows your mind how these like elderly, you know, 60-plus-year-olds are able to play this relentlessly and understand all this. But yeah, it was quite an experience. But you know, stuff like that I'm interested to learn. So Tarot was the one that I picked from Essen, and I wanted to see what Tarot was like, because I used to have in fact I probably still have it on the shelf somewhere, an actual Tarot deck, you know, the arcane sort of divination style thing. Used to like try to learn how to read Tarot, but I'd probably forgotten it all by now.
What am I, psychic?
In terms of the rules set, I'm trying to explain this the best I can, although this game does use a lot of terminology. Once you've got all the rules down, it basically portrays to a typical trick-taking game where you play cards, follow suit, trump beats a normal card play, that kind of thing. You've got all these different cards. There's like, you know, the 2s to aces, and then there's some various trump cards of different values that go up to 21 effectively. But the main thing is that you've got 3 very special honor cards called the little one of trumps, you've got the 21 of trumps, then you got the excuse, which is kind of like a sort of void card. But the idea is that you get dealt all your cards in a round, and then you take it in turns to decide whether you want to bid on winning the round. And you bid based on 4 different ideas. You've got take, guard, guard without the dog, and guard against the dog. Yeah, the terminology in this game is a little bit weird, that being said. The dog is essentially a few cards that are out in the middle, and then depending on how confident you are with your hand and what's in the middle, you decide how much you want to bid. Now, based on what you want to bid, that dog pile will either go to the other side or to you, etc. But the main thing you're trying to do is win the round with so many points, and the amount of points you need to win is based on 2 things. It's based on what type of cards you win in the tricks, but also based on how many of these honor cards you get in your winning piles by the time you finish. At which point there's a weird sort of way of scoring based on, you know, like a little math sum that you do. And then you rinse, repeat, and you play for several rounds. But the problem, as you can already tell with this game, trying to explain it is a little bit tricky. This is not a game for casual trick-taking players. This is a game for people who play trick-taking games a lot, who see all this weird terminology, who understand these different like weird scoring mechanisms and guard with the dog, guard against the dog and that. This is not a game I can play with casual players who don't see trick-taking games often. For that, I've got Nikosu Dice, Niet, you know, other trick-takers that are a lot easier to do that with. This one feels like a game that, as much as it can be enjoyable if you're a trick-taking fan, you can only really play this with other trick-taking fans. I know the book says, you know, perfect for beginners, but I don't know if I'd like to use the word beginner with playing this game. I think this is going to be too much for people. I mean, you've got to, you know, even like the point scoring for the taker, you've got this little chart here and it talks about like 5 points for an honor and a low card, 5 points for a king and a low card. And it's like always score points by combining 2 cards, and then you must achieve the number of honors and contracts. It just gets a little bit confusing for people, which is a bit of a shame because I love the artwork on these cards. I mean, this artwork is gorgeous, absolute gorgeous. I want this in a Texas Poker Hold'em deck because, oh my god, the imagery is so nice. I mean, it is just that nice, but you can't really translate this into another game because you've got all your cards of D, V, R, and C or whatever, and it's like, because it's basically French, so you're not going to have the usual King, Queen, Jack, and 10 thing. It's just a little bit like, huh? What are these pictures? It's its own unique deck. So, I mean, overall, I've enjoyed some games with this, but the games are let down by the fact that this is just not an easy game to teach to anybody who isn't a major trick-taking fan. And for the most part, I tend to know people who are more casual onto that genre. I'm probably the one who's played the most trick-taking games out of people in my group, and, you know, even at conventions, you know, bar 1 or 2 people. And so I feel like I need to take this to, like, the bridge fans that I played with on the cruise more than just anybody else. So, you know, I like this idea. I think this is probably going to be very good if you are a trick-taking fan and have the right group to play it with. But don't grab this thinking you're going to get into a nice casual card game, because this really isn't a casual card game in the genre. But I like this idea of traditional games from around the world. They're going to be doing other ones as well, you know, some from Japan, some from, you know, some from other countries. And honestly, give this line a look, because I think if you're wanting to play more of these little traditional games, there's some good ones on there. This one, again, I think I would probably give a 6 out of 10. It's above average. It's very beautifully packaged, very beautifully designed, beautifully illustrated. It's just not one for the casual players, and that kind of, you know, sours it a little bit for me, because I was kind of hoping I could play this with just about anybody. But no, this is definitely a bit more of an advanced game on the trick-taking genre, and as I say, not a bad one. Certainly nicely packaged, but be warned, you're going to have to play it with the right people.
Dear God, what is it like in your funny little brains? It must be so boring.
Alright, let's take a look at Coney. Coney is a very nice, pretty game about raising a farm of rabbits. Now, yeah, the whole idea of, you know, setting up a rabbit farm, it's like, you know, normally farm rabbits, and what exactly are you doing with these rabbits? But, gloss over that. The main idea is that you're basically building up a tableau of cards in front of you, using food as resources, and trying to play rabbit cards to score points. With this game, you're effectively trying to build up a 3x3 grid of rabbits in your tableau, and you have free actions to pick from. You can only pick one of the 3. Restocking, which is effectively getting more food resources. Playing the cards, which you play the rabbits into your grid. And the third one, growth, which is where you activate various growth abilities on the cards. Pretty straightforward. Except these rabbits are a bit of a pain in order to get into your tableau, because a lot of them have placement restrictions. First off, you have to afford the food cost to play the rabbits. That's already one thing you're doing. But then a lot of them have got different, like, they're basically different color rabbits, you know, different species, and they're male and female. So they've got placement restrictions about the fact that they can't go adjacent to another one of a particular color, or they can't be, you can't have a male with the female and such, and there's quite a lot of these placement restrictions. I mean, you know, just the few that I've got here, you know, one of them says can't be next door to a male. Okay, fine. This one can't be next door to a white rabbit. Okay, this one can't be next door to a male either. And this one has to be next to at least one white rabbit or one grey rabbit. So, you know, when you're trying to fit these into your 3x3 grid, it's harder than you think to try and get these rabbits to actually go in the rotten grid. But that's kind of it. It's a very simplistic 3x3 grid sort of building game, and you have some abilities on the cards to allow you to exchange resources and cards, draw cards, or do what they call trade, which is effectively another way of getting more cards. So it's hand management as well as the tableau building, and it's just a case of, well, who completes their 3x3 grid first, and then total up all the end game points as well as the points on the various rabbits. So yeah, not a very complicated game at all. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. The iconography on the cards is clear to read. There's not a lot of text. Once you understand how the trade ability works, that's mainly the main complication you've got. And it's just a speedy little 3x3 card game. Nothing particularly complex or bad about it. The placement restrictions make it very hard for you to play certain rabbits in certain places, so it's definitely going to make you plan ahead a little bit for trying to find the rabbits you need. There's definitely some luck of the draw because you're going through cards left and right trying to find the exact rabbit that can go into the spot. So it's not like this is a particularly skillful game to an extent. But the iconography is nice and simple. The rulebook's clear to read. The solo mode's a little bit boring. I didn't find the solo mode to be that interesting. But playing this as a 2 to 4 player game, just as a quickie little filler, is actually fine. And you've got very nice, beautiful pictures of rabbits to go through. I think who illustrated this one? Let's see, illustrations, Mirko Properzi. Okay, I'm not very good at pronouncing these names, but kudos to the artist. I think the artist did a very good job. Looking at a rainbow rabbit is kind of weird though. It's kind of like something out of a Watership Down dream sequence. But yeah, this is a neat little game. It's packaged well and not as cheap as I would have thought it would have been at Essen. But this is a small publisher. Rocket Games don't produce a huge amount. I'd give this one a 7 out of 10. It's a nice little, nicely packaged game. If you like rabbits, if you like nice pretty pictures of rabbits, I think this one's a decent little portable travel game for everybody. So not complex, not particularly brain-burny, nothing really new, but it's pretty. It's got cute little rabbits on it, and it does the job nicely.
But wait, there's more.
Finally, we're going to look at Magic Maze Tower. So this is a standalone spin-off from the original Magic Maze from sit-down games. Now, I don't mind Magic Maze, but it's chaotic and it's meant to be. I think I mainly enjoy it for the silliness of having that to do something now pawn that you just smash in front of somebody to try and get them to do something. That's pretty hilarious, but yeah, I like it. It's okay, but I'm not the biggest fan. So Magic Maze Tower wasn't exactly jumping the gun to check out, but it's standalone, and I noticed that it has no egg timer. It doesn't. This is a turn thing. You can basically take turns in any order you like, but you have all the time in the world to do the puzzles. And that's essentially what this game is. One big puzzle. Now, in terms of the rule set, I'll get rid of some of these little goodies that are there for something we'll explain in a minute, but basically you have got a massive stack, that is how thick it is, of all these sheets, and they are double-sided. They're basically split up into different adventures. You do so many of them at a time, and then once you've done the trials, which is the blue side, you flip them over to purple and red, combine them into this massive grid, and then do like one big mega epic puzzle. There's also some green sheets for tutorials, although for crying out loud, have you ever heard the term grandmother suck eggs, teaching your grandmother to suck eggs? Well, the tutorials is like teaching your grandmother to suck eggs and she's sucking on a dinosaur egg. It's like, Jesus, okay, I think the rule book is enough to teach me the game here. But, you can play through these tutorial missions in about 5 minutes and like learn how each of the pawns move. But the idea is that you have a coloured pawn for each of the different classes, so barbarian, archer, mage and such. And they start on specific spaces, and similar to Magic Maze, you have to get them to their armories, and then you have to get them to the staircases to exit. But each one has a particular perk that allows them to teleport across the map, or chuck people across pits, or get past somebody when they're blocking your path. All these little things. And the idea is that you basically have the puzzle, set your pieces up, and then try to figure out how to do it. So, as far as I can tell, there's only one way to do each puzzle. I mean, I haven't played every single sheet in here, okay, give me a break, but for the most part, as far as I can tell, there's just one, solution per thing. But this is quite cool, because actually I think the egg timer thing in the original Magic Maze is kind of what puts me off wanting to play it. Whereas this one feels like a nice puzzle game. And you can play it with 1 to 4 players, the idea being that if you play with multiple players, you have those orientation tiles. That means you can only move and do stuff in a certain direction. But once you take out the egg timer and the chaos, there is literally no point in playing this as a 3 to 4 player game. Why would you? 1 to 2 players is fine. 2 people working together with 2 of those tokens each, I think it's fine. You could have fun with your partner, or maybe like the mother plays with the son, that kind of thing. Like mum and child type thing. Dad and child. You could do some kind of arrangement like that as a family. But Also, solo. This is actually just a decent amount of fun to play solo. I can literally just say, well, I'm going to play this adventure, and then I just sit there in my own time. I don't have to deal with these orientation tiles, because I can just move things how I like. There's no time limit, and I just try to go, okay, how do I want to see? If I move him first there, I go there, but I need to get him over there. I need to teleport you. You only move in such a direction. And it's like, it's pretty sweet. And they do start off stupidly easy, I would admit. The first bunch I was doing, I was thinking, okay, is this made for kids? Seriously? But they do get progressively harder, especially by the time you get like halfway through the deck. And it's, you know, just a good, satisfying puzzle all round. The main new addition that you've got in this battle crew is the little sister pawn. So I think the others have been used before, but this little sister basically can only teleport. They don't actually move, but they have to teleport to somewhere where they're adjacent to another pawn. They basically cling on to them in that. So this one introduces a cool little puzzle element as well. But if you're really into Magic Maze, then this one also gives you a couple of goodie tiles, which allows you to use the little sister in other, like the original form of Magic Maze. I've never tried this because I don't own Magic Maze, but it's nice that they throw this little thing here to make it partially backwards compatible so you can augment your original game. I mean, that's a nice little twist. It's just well packaged. I mean, you got a nice box of the pawns. You've got these beautiful, like, Where's Waldo style artwork on all of these tiles. You know, you can look for all the little Easter eggs that are plonked around the place. It's clear to read. There's no ambiguity as to what symbol means what. The only thing that kind of is bad in this game, and I do mean bad, is these. I think they're supposed to be reference aids, but they're god-awful reference aids. You know, having these symbols on the right mean absolutely nothing. Doesn't tell me anything. It's like, well, what's that mean? You know, I think it's... one tells you got to go adjacent, the other one is where you got to get to and stuff, but it's not clear from the symbol. And then these explain how each of the pawns work. 2 or 3 of them you might be able to figure out how they work from the icons, but the rest you would not be able to remember their exact rules from these. These are just pointless. It's a pointless component. It's not a reference aid that works. But frankly, the rulebook's not exactly big, so just look them up in the book. This is dirt simple. But yeah, this is a pretty neat little puzzle game. I mean, I've had some fun with this. I might even hang on to it just to play through the rest of the puzzles and that. But I could see families having to go with this. I could see young people having to go with this. This is just, I think, taking out the egg timer, for me, makes it a better game. You know, but it's not anything brand new or anything like stellar. But I just think if you're into solo puzzles and you want something that's very quick to set up and just jump into, for a 7 out of 10 game, as I'm giving this one, this is pretty decent and pretty solid. So 7 out of 10, Magic Maze Tower. Give it a look if you're into some solo puzzles.
Hooray!
So there you go, that's 4 little games that I've just given a very brief review of. A couple of, you know, 5, 6, some 7s. You know, not too bad, not, you know, nothing stellar, but, you know, a few extra games that I was able to try out after I got back from my cruise. And it was good to at least cover those so that I can now focus on, like, you know, the speed reviews I was doing and some of these top 10 lists and the top 50 that I'm doing. So that's it for me on this episode of The Broken Meeple. If you like what you see, then please thumb it up on YouTube and consider subscribing. Your views and engagement are what keep this channel flowing, and if you want to subscribe to the Patreon, even better, because it helps me to pay all the fees and membership costs and subscriptions that I've got to keep up with each year. But of course, let me know your thoughts on these games. Have you played any of the 4 games mentioned? Do any of them take your fancy? I would certainly like to know your views. But until next time, remember, regardless of what you got to play after you finish 2024, it's still only a game. So bye for now.